Taylor leans over to Jagger and says, "I'm leaving the band."
When Mick Taylor announced his departure, Jagger said he was very, very disappointed.
Mick Taylor leaving was the curveball, because that was a really good band.
Because I slowly became addicted to heroin.
Keith wiping some of his contributions and replacing them with his own.
You know, it's a love-hate relationship with me. Always will be.
He just felt he had to get out.
He made this terrible mistake leaving the band.
Not quite to the extent Brian Jones was at the end of his tenure in the band.
We almost didn't realise until he'd gone.
The greatest Rolling Stones lineup was the one between 1969 and 74 with Mick Taylor.
None shines quite as brightly or as hauntingly as his extended guitar solo featured on the 1974 album It's Only Rock and Roll. A hauntingly beautiful track that features perhaps Taylor's finest studio solo with the Stones.
You know, my role in the Rolling Stones was to play guitar. I mean, I think after 5.5 years, I really had enough.
The track not only captures Taylor's technical and emotional peak with the band, but also serves as a poignant farewell note. He would leave the group just months later.
I was sitting on this sofa in the middle. Mick Jagger was here and Mick Taylor was here. I'll never forget it. We were all having a chat and a drink. And then at one point, Taylor leans over to Jagger and says, "I'm leaving the band. I'm leaving right now."
Yeah, star-crossed in pleasure, the stream flows on by.
Mick said, "I think he was serious." And I said, "I think he was too."
Waits for no one, and it won't wait for me.
I can't give you one overriding reason for leaving.
Waits for no one, and it won't.
Unlike the Stones' usual swaggering blues rock, Time Waits for No One is built around a wistful, introspective mood.
Time Waits for No Man is one of Mick Taylor's finest contributions.
The sonic space this creates is not just room for a guitar solo, it demands one. But not just any solo, it needed to say something, and that's exactly what Mick Taylor delivered.
And it's ironic in a way that it comes at the point where he's pretty disillusioned and is already thinking about getting out.
It's the perfect farewell song, as it was one of his last major contributions before leaving the band.
Yeah, I can't really say it was totally down to being frustrated artistically. I didn't feel that I could grow anymore.
Spanning almost 3 full minutes, Taylor's solo begins gently and builds to a lyrical, emotionally resonant climax. It's often compared to Carlos Santana's phrasing, an apt reference, especially given Taylor's recent trip to Brazil before the session, which he said influenced his feel and rhythmic ideas.
He does this wonderful Carlos Santana-style guitar solo on Time Waits for No One.
Though Taylor hadn't officially left the band yet, the solo plays like a final statement. It's as if he's pouring every unspoken frustration, longing and farewell into those few minutes.
He's got drug problems of his own as well at this stage. And it's all a bit of a messy ending for Mick. He just felt he had to get out.
When in the world would you leave the Rolling Stones?
I don't know. Maybe I thought that I would be able to protect my family from not Keith's orbit, but drugs. Because I slowly became addicted to heroin. There comes a point where you have to choose between one or the other, or you die. And I've survived.
you know, it's sad that people think he made this terrible mistake leaving the band. On some level, he probably saved his own life, and he had to go. He could not stay there.
A lot of people think I'm crazy for leaving. You know, people are constantly saying to me, "Why didn't you just stay where you were? You could have been a millionaire by now."
Guitar solos in rock often aim for speed or power. Taylor goes for feeling and wins.
There are clearly difficulties between him and Keith at this stage, with you know, infamous stories of Keith wiping some of his contributions and replacing them with his own.
Yet many Rolling Stones fans rank it among the best solos ever recorded by the band. Critics often cite it as evidence of Taylor's underappreciated role in the Stones' 1970s golden era.
And this is why I keep saying that Mick Taylor has never really been given his full due in subsequent histories of the Rolling Stones, because the greatest Rolling Stones lineup was the one between 1969 and 74 with Mick Taylor.
Mick Taylor contributed so much, from the guitar meshing from Honky Tonk Women, Sticky Fingers. I think he vaguely co-wrote Sway. He's All Over Exile, Ventilator Blues. He got a co-credit.
He's only credited with one song on Exile, Ventilator Blues, and this was the issue that eventually drove him out. He wrote a lot more than they gave him credit for. You know, this is always the bone of contention in rock and roll. The real money is in the songwriting royalties. Jagger Richards were not about to have that many other titles on their albums, and Mick wanted more credit and didn't get it.
To me, they peaked then, and I don't really think that they've done as many good albums or written as many good songs as they did, not only while I was with them, but prior to the period I joined them.
So he's almost become a semi-detached member by this stage. Not quite to the extent Brian Jones was at the end of his tenure in the band, but it's in retrospect you can see that he was on the way out, and yet they still needed him, you know, and he's still making these great contributions that you can hear on the record.
Full version, as originally released on It's Only Rock and Roll, remains the definitive take and a reminder of what the band lost when Taylor left.
So his contributions, I think, were immense in that way, and we almost didn't realise until he'd gone, you know, what he weaved into the fabric of the Stones.
You know, it's a love-hate relationship with me. Always will be. When
Mick Taylor announced his departure, I mean, Jagger said he was very, very disappointed by it. I think it really shocked the band.
Mick Taylor leaving was the curveball, because that was a really good band, and it had this balance between Keith and Mick Taylor.
I think Jagger rued Taylor's departure more than Keith did, because he appreciated the musical sophistication, that Mick Taylor brought to the Rolling Stones, and that's obvious from the fact that, you know, the two of them worked quite closely together on certain kind of key tracks, you know, whether it is Moonlight Mile or Next Time We Say Goodbye.
Mick Taylor's guitar solo on Time Waits for No One is more than just a standout moment. It's a masterclass in expressive melodic soloing. It captures a fleeting moment of clarity and depth in the Stones' catalog, a place where time did seem to pause just long enough for one guitarist to say everything he needed to say. And then, just like the song warns, time moved on.
It really wasn't a big deal for me, leaving the Stones.